Welcome to the Neurodiverse Lens, a CDL podcast featuring Carolyn and Jordan.
Welcome everyone. What an exciting night tonight. It is the start of our Standing Together Symposium. And you're watching and you're standing with us. This means so much. The name of our symposium is intentional. We need our community to help us make more inclusive spaces to improve outcomes for neurodiverse individuals. And you're here, you're watching, and you're doing that with us. Thank you so much for being here. If you've never watched one of our podcasts before, shame on you. And this is your invitation to start watching. Yep. I'm Carolyn. I'm the executive director here at the Center for Diverse Learners. I am an autistic person, and I am going to bring both my personal and professional experience to the things we're talking about today. And I'm joined with Jordan, who is our senior manager of communications, and she is the one who this symposium was really her kind of brainchild.
Yeah, it's been a bit of a wild ride, but I think it's been a real learning opportunity for, I think, both of us after our previous kind of conferences in the past, and we kind of created this idea together and kind of finally seen it happen in real life, or it's been something great, and I'm really excited to see where it takes us over the next couple of years as well. But yeah, our last conference, it was a little different method of delivery, let's say.
Yeah, what we've done in the past. So my first year as ED, my first month on the job was our conference. Yeah. And so I didn't really have a hand in designing how it went, and you weren't really in that role at that time either. And ironically, our conference was not neurodiverse friendly. It was workshops back to back to back. Yeah. And the platform that we used, which we won't name, had a lot of stuff that would like distract from the presentation. And I remember on the Saturday, my job was to sit through 4 workshops, and they were amazing, interesting workshops. Yeah. But when you're running it, you're watching them back to back to back with almost no break. And I was to listen and then come up with the questions. Now, I am neurodiverse, and sitting for a whole day and listening was incredibly difficult to me. And after that, I said to Jordan, I'm like, we need to make sure when we're doing things that it is neurodiverse friendly. It is in a way that works for people. I also was really mindful that, and a shout out to all of our neurodiverse parents watching. Yes. What neurodiverse parent has a whole Saturday to sit and watch workshops? As really valuable as they are, you're busy. You know, if you have a whole day, I guarantee, and I mean, I love our workshops, but I guarantee you do not want to be sitting watching workshops. If you've got a whole Saturday to yourself, you want to be spending it doing some much needed self-care. So Jordan and I, since that day, have been working on trying to create a format that truly was accessible for everyone, which is why you might be watching at the time that this is live. Yeah. Or you might be watching a recording. It might be beautiful, sunny July when you're watching this. And we wanted that to be. We really understand that our community needs to be at the center of everything we do. As anybody who knows anything about me knows, I am a passionate believer in universal design. And part of that universal design is considering how neurodiverse individuals are going to interact with something. That's the other part of why I was insistent that we do recordings. You might need to pause. Some of the things we're going to talk about are heavy. Yeah. And you might need to take a minute. Does that mean you should miss out on the learning? Yeah. So our format of our symposium, for those of you who are not aware, is we are going to have 3 workshops a week. But we're also mindful. These are tough economic times for families. So every Thursday is completely free for Hamilton Halton families, completely free, because we don't want to gatekeep knowledge. Now, part of this symposium is we are trying to raise funds for our programs. If you don't know, our literacy, math, social skills, and homework programs are completely free, barrier-free for families. And until we find a secret billionaire who wants to bankroll all of the work that we do, and if you're watching and a billionaire, let's chat.
Yep.
We definitely need the support of our community. So that is something that we're always balancing. I really want to thank you for being here and standing with us. Today we're going to talk about some really sensitive things, especially when I talk about my upcoming presentation, which
I'm very excited. It is our first presentation that kind of kicks off the symposium that's happening on March 3rd, so which will be tomorrow after releasing this podcast. I do want to say one thing, though, that something that has stayed consistent and true to all of our previous conferences and now our symposium is that our workshop speakers are fantastic. We've had amazing speakers in the past, and this upcoming month is another 10 sessions from 10 fantastic speakers that all are either a part of our CDL staff team or work very close with us in the community. And we're really excited to kind of have them share their knowledge with us as staff, share their knowledge with the community members, and especially our families and caregivers of the students in our programs.
this is something that was really important to me. In the past, we were often investing in speakers who weren't connected to us at CDL. Some of them we really only talked to maybe once or two times before our conference. They would come, do their presentation, and leave. But at CDL, on top of doing great programming, if I do say so myself, we also have the knowledge. Community training is at the heart of what we do. And so we wanted this symposium to be grounded in that, so that when you're watching these presentations, know that these are also the people who are helping shape the programs that we offer, shape what CDL looks like. And so I think that's what makes it really, really exciting this year, is that it is so CDL focused. And even though this symposium is across Canada, there is also a little bit of that local focus, which I think is really, really key.
Yeah, if you're listening to this episode and you are interested in purchasing a ticket for the symposium, the tickets for our virtual passes are only $60. You'll have access to all 10 sessions live and the recordings. And then kind of that community piece that Carolyn touched on is our Open Doors, Open Minds event that's happening on March 27th at 6 p.m. at our main office at 560 Guelph Line in Burlington. And it's really a chance for us to kind of bring in the community around us that supports us, but also the parents and caregivers of our students. We're going to have kind of a couple classrooms set up. There's going to be food, a lot of student work that we're going to have on display, and really highlight some parent and caregiver testimonials, so that way our community can kind of see what we actually do at CDL. I know we have a lot of podcast episodes out. We're always posting on social media, but I think allowing folks into our space, obviously when there's not program running, because that's way too hectic, but allowing them to kind of step into our world of what, we're doing Monday to Friday with students, I think will be a great opportunity to kind of bridge that gap of that, what's really going on at CDL.
Yeah, and this month there's going to be opportunities to get a free ticket to that Open Minds, Open Doors night. I'm really excited about that night because I love showing people what we do and how we do it, and I really, sometimes one of the things that's heavy on me is that often you and I are kind of the face of CDL, but in truth, we're not the ones doing the really heavy lifting.
Yeah.
No offense, Jordan. But our staff work so hard with those kids, and often their work is invisible. And I want to shine a light on some of the things that they do. And so I'm really excited about that piece. And I think it'll be a great night. And as we're talking about it being neurodiverse friendly, there's going to be a place that's quiet if you need. And also, and I love this, as someone who has to go to a lot of events, it's an open house. You can come and go as you please. You are not locked into the 2 full hours, which makes it more accessible for our neurodiverse community and just parents in general.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, if you only have 15 minutes of your night and you want to come and grab a snack and, take a lap around the space, that's all you need. And yeah, we're going to have our doors open from 6 until 8 p.m. So if you only have 15 minutes or you want to stay the entire 2 hours, it's totally up to you and what fits in your schedule. So,
And if you were there last year, you know how good the food was.
yes.
Melanie
was
from
so good.
Crafted Promotions put together a spread that was so delicious. Everything was homemade. Everything was homemade, and it was
I
so good.
consistently compare the food we had at our event to every other event that I have been to since our event last year. And it truly is it was so good. She's even catered a breakfast event for us before as well. Fantastic. I'm not calling anyone out, but I end up at events where there's only coffee for breakfast. I don't understand.
Jordan, I don't want to hear about this again.
It's
So
okay.
there is this hilarious thing that we talk about. So obviously in the 2 roles that we have, Jordan and I go to a lot of events together, and sometimes I go to events alone without Jordan. When Jordan comes with me, generally the food is terrible. I don't know, she's absolutely cursed. But when I go without Jordan, the food is always exceptional, and then I have to send her pictures and send her a text being like, haha, you missed out on this incredible meal. So even though Jordan's going to be there, the food is going to be incredible.
'Cause I picked it out.
Yes. Honestly, when we were putting together this event, emailing Melanie was the first thing we did. We're like, we got to lock down Melanie. That was so important. And so let's get into it a little bit about some of the things we're going to cover in this symposium.
Yeah, so this week's theme is understanding together. So in today's episode, I'm going to kind of go through why we're starting with that theme for our symposium. I'm also going to dive into kind of what neurodiversity means to us, the misunderstanding of neurodiversity, and a little sneak peek into our speakers for this week. I know we kind of gave it away that you're our first speaker, but I mean, the schedule's everywhere. As Carolyn loves to talk about, and I love to embody, is a good visual schedule. And we have our entire month schedule posted on our website. It's pinned on our Instagram. Pretty much any outlet where we are on, you can view that schedule and see what's coming up for the month. But yeah, so really why I wanted to start with the theme of understanding together first is because I believe the first step in supporting anyone who is neurodiverse or has a neurodiverse person in their life, the first step truly is understanding, having a shared understanding of what they go through, what you go through as a family. And I think to truly move past anything, you have to have that shared understanding, which is why I think it's so important that this symposium is able to bring people from all across Canada together to learn from our speakers for the entire month on how we can grow, learn, and support neurodiverse learners in our lives, and yourself if you are someone who is neurodiverse. And I saw a quote online that said, understanding is a mindset rather than a destination. And I think that's so important, especially when it comes to neurodiverse individuals, because I really think you never stop learning. You never stop understanding. There's always something new that you're going to learn or go through that's going to kind of help project you into that next space of your life. But yeah, I really think that first step is that shared understanding.
I think it's really key, and it's why we wanted to start, obviously, the symposium with that, to build that kind of sense of knowledge.
Yeah.
One of the things that I believe creates the most barriers for neurodiverse individuals, and as you know, this was my kind of thrust with this symposium, is I want people to really understand what they can do, and as the weeks progress, what they can do to support this community. But we need to have that understanding first. I was doing actually a community training this morning. I am going to be so talked out by the end of today. But I was doing a training this morning, and what I said, and this is the first time I've said this in a training, but is I am now comfortable saying we don't fully know what neurodiversity is yet. That I don't want to pin it down. It is something that is changing, and that as more people join the community, we have more voices to help us figure out what that is. But what needs to be at the center is it needs to be neurodiverse voices that are guiding that and are helping build that understanding. And it's why my topic, so I'm talking first about ableism.
Yeah.
And I really want to dive into that word and make people less afraid of that word and more ready to confront it.
Yeah.
I think there are so many perceptions on how people should be, and I think we need to chuck it. But I think that conversation needs to be centered in someone who is disabled. And I even just like have a moment. I struggle with that word in myself.
Yeah.
And so what we're going to be talking about in that presentation is I'm going to be talking about what ableism looks like at school, what ableism looks like at home, what it looks like in the workplace, and what it looks like inside disabled people, how we have internalized ableism, and then the impact of all of that on a community, and what we can do in a way that is supportive of each other to root it out. Because if we get so afraid of talking about these things, if we don't really want to understand and we just want to move on, we're not going to be able to take the real steps. I remember the first time I said to somebody, I was like, ooh, I think there's some ableism going on there. Right. And they were like really offended. They're like, I'm not ableist. How could you say this? And I had to deconstruct for them that this isn't about you hating disabled people. And in fact, a lot of ableism exists within that community. Yeah. It is really, truly about you have a perception of how things are supposed to be that creates barriers for disabled people that we can deconstruct. There is ableism in our education system, you know, when we're talking about modifying versus accommodating. So if you have a child who has an IEP, I really suggest watching my presentation because I'm going to dive into those two things and really talk about how our current process of modifying a high percentage of students versus accommodating is rooted in ableism and what we need to do to deconstruct that. And if those terms ring familiar but you're not sure about them, just go to my presentation. I don't want to go over everything I'm going to say now. Also, if you know me as a public speaker, I don't ever fully know what I'm going to say until the words come out of my mouth. Right. So I can't really preview it too much. But I want to dive into that. But if we don't understand what ableism is, then how can we attack it? You know? Because I hear a lot of like, ableism is just like racism. And I'm like, no, they're both tools of oppression. Yeah. Both currently exist in our society, but it is more layered with ableism. Look, from the second you're born, right? People start telling you what the rights and wrongs are, and that becomes ingrained in you, right? And when we start thinking about neurodiversity, sometimes you have to deconstruct that. Like, one of my favorite creators had a video that said, autistic joy is not cringe. If you've watched an autistic person be really happy and really filled with joy, and I would say one of the most positive things about being autistic is that when I'm full of joy, I'm full of joy. Yeah. That in society that can be viewed as cringed. And there's that ableism in there, but that there's ways you're supposed to behave in public, even though me being happy and being like, yes, 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 hurts absolutely no one. That isn't something that hurts anybody. But those ideas exist that maybe that's cringy behavior. So we're going to get into all of that.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to start off with what neurodiversity means to us individually, and maybe how your understanding has evolved even through, finding out your own diagnosis and kind of working through your career, and then really kind of moving into the misunderstandings. And I know a lot of what you're going to be speaking about during your presentation will kind of cover that misunderstanding and internalized ableism. But I really want to kind of, resonate with the folks who are listening at home that, even though we are working at the Center for Diverse Learners and we're actively in the field all the time, our understandings are constantly evolving as well. I know I can speak for myself in terms of even when I started my career working with children, when I was 18 years old versus to how I interact and engage and make sure, everyone kind of has a voice in the space now being 31 years old. It's a lot different than it was when I started my career. And even looking back to when I started at CDL, when we were the Learning Disabilities Association, to now what we've grown all together as a staff team, and most importantly what your impact on the organization has done for us and how we emulate it through our work individually as well. If you are able to kind of speak to your own growth or anything like that.
Yeah. It's interesting because I have been working with the neurodiverse community my entire career, but that's not actually the wording I used to use. I used to say that I worked with exceptional students, and that is really language that's from the board. Right. The school boards use that language versus neurodiversity. And then when I went through my whole diagnosis journey, I started to embrace the term a lot more. And for me, it just means that there are individuals who learn, think, process, and express in ways that are deemed as other, as not neurotypical. And I am a big proponent, and not everyone is. This is why I'm saying, there's some comfortability in not being able to define it. I'm really comfortable in having a very broad umbrella. I always say no gatekeeping, right?
Yeah.
Like, we're here to embrace anybody who learns differently, who thinks differently.
Sorry to cut you off. I think that's a great point, though, when we're out in the community and we're at these, street events. That's something that we even say to parents who are just finding out about us. They want to know if, we'll accept their child into our programs and everything. And, they might not have a diagnosis yet. And we kind of use that terminology of like anyone who learns differently. And they're like, oh, there is a space for us. And then it's like a light bulb. It like clicks in their mind, like what the term neurodiversity, at least to our organization, means in terms of that like very wide umbrella term of like really anyone who doesn't learn neurotypically. And I think that's a huge bridge that we've been able to build for parents and caregivers in Hamilton and Halton.
One of the things that I'm really passionate about and I talk about a lot is systemic barriers that exist that hold our community back. There are systemic barriers to being diagnosed. I have privilege that I was able to be diagnosed because I had money to pay for it privately. There are a lot of adults out there who have self-diagnosed as neurodiverse who would love to get a diagnosis, but there is either a wait list or a cost that they can't have. And who am I to determine who belongs in our community? It even gets more sad when we think about kids. There's a long wait list for adequate diagnosis. And so should those kids just not get support and not have a community and not feel seen just because they don't have a formal diagnosis? This is something that I am so happy to build upon that tradition of this organization and the direction of it to really represent the entire community. And I know that sometimes people are really concerned, and I'm using the word confronted, but not necessarily that harshly, with people who are like, but there's so many people who are now neurodiverse. It's really approximately about 15% of the population, which is a large chunk of people, right? But that still means that 85% of people are learning, thinking, working in a similar way, and that we need to embrace those members of our community as much as possible. I would really rather give support to a child who we maybe find out 5 years down the road didn't have a formal diagnosis but is now succeeding because of our support, than to turn away a whole wide variety of kids who really would, if they had the opportunity to be diagnosed, would be diagnosed. We do see, so one of the ways our organization runs is we are in communities throughout Hamilton and Halton. We really try to aim to be in low-income communities to reduce transportation barriers. But some of our communities are lower income than others. And in those communities, we see lower percentages of diagnosis. And that breaks my heart. Imagine if we just didn't support those kids. I think about those individual children and how deserving they are for support. And that's the problem with gatekeeping. You know, one of the things that absolutely broke my heart was the whole autistic Barbie nonsense about people wanting to define what is autism in a certain way, and certain people are autistic and other people aren't. You know, we get into this conversation a lot when there was the shift from Asperger's to just autism. I try not to use autism spectrum disorder. I know that's the clinical name. That isn't what resonates with me. But it isn't our job as an organization to say who belongs and who doesn't.
Right.
And so that's what this week is about. How do you understand a community that is really diverse within it? Because the other thing that people sometimes criticize CDL about, I'll get it in my personal DMs sometimes, is that we generally, or at least I don't use the term neurodivergent. I say I'm a neurodiverse individual, that I am not against anybody who uses the term neurodivergent, self-label. But the reason we don't as an organization is because I don't want to suggest that the people we serve are diverging from a norm. I want to embrace the difference and highlight that this is just a difference, not a divergent. I got someone who sent a very long thing about how calling myself a neurodiverse individual was grammatically incorrect. And that's actually what we love here at CDL, is we love those conversations. I don't get to decide what our community is and isn't. And that's why this symposium is so important, because we're going to have a lot of voices. For those who can attend live, we're going to have Q&As. So if you're watching this and you are like, I have been dying to ask Carolyn a question, you're going to get to. And I think that that's an important part of the symposium, is that it is going to allow our community to have a voice for so many.
Kind of to go over how each session, I guess, is going to look, it would be in true fashion to let everyone kind of know the plan beforehand. I know I said I have the month schedule ahead of plan, but in our symposium program that's going to be sent out to attendees in advance, it'll kind of give you an overview of the introduction session, kind of the content session, and then at the end of each session there will be about a 10-minute Q&A with the speaker. So if you're attending live, it's a great opportunity for you to kind of take a moment, read through the description beforehand, and then listen. And if you have that question, you can ask during that live Q&A session. We also have each speaker creating a take-home resource so that each attendee, whether you're attending live or listening to the recording, You have an opportunity to have something tangible that you're taking away for yourself, and where you can maybe apply it in your workplace, apply it at your house, apply it in any point of your life, depending on what the session is geared towards. And I think it's a really great opportunity for folks to just really have like a tangible item, where whether it be a checklist or a resource sheet. We have one speaker who's creating a sensory box, and I'm really kind of excited to see throughout the month what we're able to release to our attendees.
I think that's really exciting. And one of the things I want to highlight also is, unlike other conferences, you do not have to attend all 10 workshops. Do I think you would benefit from attending all 10? Absolutely. Am I going to attend all 10? Yes, you can bet on it. But you don't have to. I was actually meeting with someone who is like, oh, I've got to buy my ticket. And they went, oh, how much is it? I went, $60. And they went, $60 per workshop. I went, no. $60 for the 10 workshops. And they literally said to me, they're like, oh, you should have priced it higher. And I was like, no, I want it to be accessible. It's more important for me that people come. I mean, I love to raise money. I love to fund our programs, but it is really important to me that people attend. And because you get the recordings, there's not that pressure to attend live.
Yeah.
You get that added benefit of asking questions, but also if you live in this area, you know that accessing CDL staff is incredibly easy. I am so guilty of, if I'm trying to procrastinate certain tasks, I will just answer the phone. And then I'll just take people, and people will be like, oh, who I'm talking to? And I'll be like, oh, I'm Carolyn. And they're like, oh, what's your role? I'm like, oh, I'm the executive director. And they've just called to ask for like directions.
Yeah.
But so we're really accessible even afterwards. But I think the benefit of coming live is getting to build upon each other's questions.
Yeah.
Right? Someone asking a question that spurs something inside of you, and getting to ask that in the moment.
Yeah, I think it's something I see in our free monthly workshops that we host each month, is when live attendance is there. We really see a lot of people in the comments at the end of the sessions. People are turning on their cameras, turning on their microphones, they're engaging with one another. And I think that truly is the real sense of building that community, especially with one another. And, these parents who attend our workshops, their students, their children are in our programs, and they might not even know that maybe their students are working together in a group, but they're also building that kind of peer-to-peer relationship of having that mutual support for one another.
Because that's something else we do, is the peer-to-peer, is we do not always have to be in the conversation. That we have opportunities for parents to talk amongst themselves and build those relationships and build that resiliency together. It is isolating being a parent of a neurodiverse child. I really understand that. As someone who does a lot of our resource calls, it's hard, and there isn't one answer. It's not like you can call and ask a question and get one answer, or that one answer exists. And that's why the peer-to-peer support is really important.
Yeah, for our peer-to-peer support, thanks to Halton Region, we're able to kind of set aside some time after each of our monthly workshops that we host, where it's usually myself, will be kind of facilitating the tech aspect of things, but I'm really going to be kind of stepped out of the conversation, allowing parents and caregivers to take that time that, it's not recorded. If they want to turn on their camera, they can. If they want to turn on their mic, they can. If they just want to type in the chat, they could do that. Whatever kind of that support looks like for you, you're able to kind of engage in those conversations where it's just other parents, and it's usually right at 7:00 after our monthly workshops that happen on the third Wednesday of each month. So you could just stay in the call if you're attending the workshop, or you can pop in, and it's something really exciting. I am super happy to be a part of, because I think being out in the community and seeing parents face to face, but allowing them to have that kind of private call where they can really rely on others, is also super important. as well.
This is why we named our symposium Standing Together. We truly at CDL are working together to build a community. We do not want neurodiverse families to feel alone. We do not want workplaces who are trying to accommodate their neurodiverse workers to feel alone. We want to be the place where people feel like they belong, like their thoughts and feelings matter, and that we can validate their experience, which I think is so important. Sometimes as neurodiverse individuals, we get a little bit, gaslit in that we're told our experience is wrong, or that the way something happened isn't how it happened, or it wasn't such a big deal. Why do you care so much about this thing? One of the problems I have at work is the room that is my office has 0 temperature control. It is either Hades or it is the tundra, and there is like nothing in between. Either I have the window open and I'm freezing, or the heat is blaring and I'm hot, and it impacts my sensory issues. And that's something that someone could be like, oh, that's a small issue, but it really impacts me. And a lot of the parents of neurodiverse children are told things like, have a bath. Have you tried gentle parenting? Have you tried setting boundaries? Have you tried saying no? And it's like, neurodiverse parents have tried everything.
Yeah.
Everything. I will tell you, raising neurodiverse children is not about just one thing and that will absolutely work. It is about having and getting to attend symposiums like this so that you get feedback from real neurodiverse individuals who are really in the field, who also work with your children, so that we understand that piece, so that you no longer feel like I'm the only one who feels like this. And the symposium is about building that community, and I think we're really going to do it together.
Yeah, and we are in for a fantastic first week of workshops. Our workshop speakers this week, starting on March 3rd, is our very own Carolyn whose topic is going to be confronting ableist beliefs that limit neurodiverse individuals. And I am so excited to be facilitating this session, but I'm also so excited to attend. I think it's going to be a lot of really good conversations. It might be a bit heavy for individuals, but like Carolyn said, that's why we're recording them. You can pause, you can rewatch, and kind of take that time for yourself. On March 4th, we have Audrey Dresma, who's going to be talking about strategies to support inclusive practice in a neurodiverse world. So kind of talking about that self-advocacy piece of kind of working through and changing kind of your output of what you think a neurotypical world is and really making it your own. And then we have Megan Graham on March 5th, who's a great friend of CDL. We attended her Community Connections Day last summer, and we're excited to go back this summer. She is a fantastic advocate for neurodiverse folks in the community, and her session is Neurodiversity and Community from Isolation to Belonging. So these are 3 sessions that you are not going to want to miss. If you can attend live, I highly, highly, highly recommend it. But if you want to watch the recordings, you're more than welcome to as well.
And if you're seeing this at a different time, you can still buy a ticket and get access to the recordings. So one of the things we know is there's going to be a lot of people who are catching up on these recordings over March break. That's why we're a little bit taking a pause that week and we have less workshops. So if you're watching this over your March break, hopefully having a really good time, and you're like, oh, I missed out. You didn't. That's why we recorded it. And so I just want to end by saying thank you for standing together with us. CDL cannot do our work alone. We need supporters to do this work, and thank you for being here. We're really excited about this month. I'm excited to hear what people have to say, and we'll see you in one of our 10 workshops, if not all of them.
Thank you for listening to the Neurodiverse Lens, a CDL podcast. For more information, visit diverselearners.ca.